NASCAR effectively shuts down any conversation about local yellows. Richard Petty Motorsports suddenly loses a major sponsor. And get ready, folks, you're about to see a lot more of Ty Gibbs. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. Obviously, this is not our usual setup. I'm in the process of setting up a brand new studio and I apologize for the echoing audio. This room is not soundproofed at all. I just decided to take a break from opening boxes and moving things around for a few hours to stop and talk racing news with y'all because there's a lot of it this week. We have a lot to get to, so bear with me. Let's barrel through it. Let's start with some surprising news from yesterday. Team owner Chip Ganassi was hit with a $30,000 fine and was suspended for this weekend's race at Homestead Miami Speedway by NASCAR. Officials say he brought a non-essential individual into the competition area at Daytona, hence the fine and suspension. His two drivers and teams, Kurt Busch and Ross Chastain, they will be able to race this weekend without any issue. Just want to make sure that's clear. But Chip Ganassi will not be allowed to attend. Of course, while not as strict as last summer, NASCAR still has COVID-19 policies in place. They're trying still to heavily limit the number of people in the garage area, out in the pit road area each weekend. It's still very, very limited. I mean, many members of drivers' families still are not able to attend with any sort of consistency. Last year, we saw Mike Ruck, husband of Angela Ruck from the Truck Series last year, get hit with a fine for bringing a sponsor, I believe, into the pit road area for a race. So NASCAR is sending a clear message here that they are still taking COVID-19 and all of their various precautions very, very seriously. They expect all of their competitors to continue to follow their rules and guidelines for at least the next few months. I've heard from the inside that NASCAR is hopeful that by the early summer, the garage area pit road will be much more open. Of course, the grandstands, I think they're hoping for many races will be much more open as well, but we're not looking probably until early summer at the earliest for that to significantly change. I want to talk about some news from this morning. Joe Gibbs Racing announced that young Ty Gibbs, who won, of course, at the Daytona road course just a couple days ago in his first ever Xfinity start, he will race 14 more times this year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in that number 54 car, and they listed out all of the specific dates, and there's a lot of road courses you'll notice. His next race will be March 13th at Phoenix, then Martinsville, Darlington, Dover, Charlotte, and then Mid-Ohio, Pocono, Road America, Watkins Glen, the Indianapolis road course, Michigan, Richmond, the Roval, and Kansas. So I count five of his upcoming 14 starts will be on road courses. He's effectively racing, in that case, I think, almost every road course on the Xfinity Series schedule. A lot of short tracks as well. Darlington, I think, will be an interesting challenge. Of course, Ty Gibbs is 18 now, so he is allowed to run the big mile-and-a-half or even super speedway tracks, but it's interesting that Joe Gibbs Racing is focusing his efforts towards the road courses and short tracks. He already showed this last weekend that he's pretty solid on road courses, certainly can learn and continue to grow and improve, but he's got a pretty solid foundation here starting out. I'm extremely excited by this news. I said during my live reaction Saturday night that Ty Gibbs may be my new favorite Xfinity Series driver. The kid has an attitude. He's obviously modeled himself after Kyle Busch, following his career and probably working with him for many, many years. I've said for a couple of years at this point that he has serious talent on the track. A lot of people discount him because his last name is Gibbs. They think he's just being fed things with a silver spoon, but no, while he may be in great equipment, he's clearly a great driver. He proved it to everyone on the national stage at Daytona this past weekend. So I'm extremely excited to see what Ty Gibbs can do in more Xfinity starts. Some people have talked about, oh, maybe this means he'll skip trucks. Honestly, after what we saw this last weekend, he probably doesn't need to waste a year with KBM. Run full-time Xfinity next year, hopefully, and we could see Ty Gibbs in Cup as soon as, 2023 at the rate things are going. I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves too quickly here, but, he's won a ton of races already in ARCA. He's 1 for 1 in Xfinity. The kid has talent, and if he keeps this roll going, we'll see him on Sunday fairly soon. We'll talk road course procedures here in just a moment because NASCAR VP of Competition Scott Miller, talking to NBC Sports, shed some light as to how NASCAR may police things going forward. But I want to start first by talking about Richard Petty Motorsports. Yesterday, a few of y'all sent me this tweet, but apparently Worldwide Technology has dropped out of NASCAR entirely. You may remember Worldwide Technology a couple years ago. They stepped up in a huge way to help Richard Petty Motorsports, and more importantly, Bubba Wallace at the time. They threw their support behind Bubba and effectively effectively made a huge donation to Richard Petty's Victory Junction charity, and that served as the primary sponsor for many races in 2019, and they were heavily involved with the team in 2020 as well, and they were expected to be a part of Richard Petty Motorsports this year with Eric Jones as their driver, but apparently that relationship has come to an abrupt end. Here's the tweet some of y'all sent me, replying to just a random Twitter user. Worldwide Technology tweets, Worldwide Technology is no longer sponsoring Richard Petty Motorsports or Bubba Wallace. We wish both RPM and Bubba the best of luck in the coming season. And I guess that's it. That is it, and this is shocking because if we go back just a few weeks till, all the preseason photo shoots, even the Daytona 500, the Worldwide Technology logo is clearly visible on Eric Jones's fire suit. It's clearly visible on Eric Jones's Daytona 500 race car from less than 2 weeks ago. This is clearly a deal that fell apart in the last probably 10 days, I'd say. Any sort of sponsor driver or sponsor team relationship that ends abruptly like this has to be surprising. You have to wonder what may have changed behind the scenes. Richard Petty has a little bit of a history with sponsors leaving the team. Remember the Smithfield debacle from a few years ago where Richard Petty unfortunately badmouthed his longtime sponsor for backing out of what he called a handshake agreement at the time. So man, it was not a great look for Petty or necessarily Smithfield. But after that, I think many have been aware of Petty's sometimes tenuous relationship with sponsors. Richard Petty's not handling the day-to-day of Richard Petty Motorsports. In a lot of ways, he is still really just the name attached to the brand. I'm sure losing Bubba Wallace in the offseason was a tough break. I'm sure, Worldwide Technology, when they stepped up in 2019, largely it was to throw their support behind Bubba Wallace. Richard Petty was, the beneficiary of it, but really Worldwide Technology was interested in Bubba Wallace, which is why they mentioned in that tweet that they're not working with Bubba Wallace either. They did not come with him over to 2311 Racing. That's also a little interesting as well. Perhaps they were under contract with Richard Petty already and there was just some weird behind the scenes workings there, but anyway, that's all speculation at this point. All we know is apparently Worldwide Technology is gone. And if you looked at Eric Jones's race car from this past weekend's race at the Daytona Road Course, their logo is nowhere to be seen. Now, that's not to say all things are bad on the sponsorship front with Richard Petty Motorsports. They recently added Tide/Food City into the fold. They're going to sponsor the 43 at the Bristol Dirt Race here in just a few weeks. They're doing a lot with this scheme. I think they're trying a little too hard with this scheme, but I do love the Tide colors as always. The U.S. Air Force is sticking around and they have teased a pretty special looking paint scheme we might see on track fairly soon. Also, Columbia Sportswear, which was a Bubba Wallace sponsor from last year, their logo is still visible on the race car, on fire suits and things. Columbia, it appears, is sticking around with Richard Petty for in some capacity this year, probably not in as big a way as they were with Bubba last year. We all knew when Bubba Wallace chose to leave Richard Petty Motorsports that sponsorship was going to be a problem for the 43 team, and Eric Jones didn't bring a whole lot of his own sponsorship. He's taken advantage of Petty's relationship with the Air Force. They're going to be a big partner this year. And then STP, of course, longtime Petty supporter. Their family brands, we saw them on the car for the Daytona 500. They're piecing this season together. It sounds like Tide coming on's a pretty cool deal. But certainly there's some concerns about Richard Petty Motorsports, Eric Jones, and sponsorship. And losing Worldwide Technology is a huge blow to this team. Lastly, we've got to talk about road courses. NASCAR ran their first of 7 points-paying Cup Series road courses this past weekend at Daytona, and across the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series race, there were a lot of questions and concerns voiced by fans and members of the media about how NASCAR handled yellow flag conditions. NASCAR does not do local yellows as many other motorsport series do at road courses. With NASCAR, it's a full course yellow or no caution at all. And full course yellows, of course, means the pace car comes out and the field lines up and will make several pace laps. They open pit road. It's a full-length caution period, and as we saw especially in that truck race Friday night, the caution periods lasted way too long. That Truck Series race was apparently the longest Truck Series race in series history, without red flags or anything like that. It was actually like 20 minutes longer than the Cup Series race was this weekend as well. The Cup guys' procedure was a little bit quicker, but a lot of fans and, like I said, members of the media have questioned whether or not NASCAR should institute local yellows at future road course events this season, now that there are so many of them on the schedule. Local yellows are exactly as they sound. If a car, spins out or stalls, just off course in like turn 7 or something, for that section of the track, NASCAR will put out a local yellow. Teams have to slow down. They cannot pass each other during that section of the track, but that allows allows NASCAR to hopefully safely get that vehicle out of the way or fix whatever problem it may be, while keeping the rest of the track clean and green. So after drivers leave that section, they can keep racing to their heart's content. And so it limits the number of laps that are spent running around at caution speed with nothing really happening. Well, fans have been asking about this, and NASCAR's Scott Miller this week effectively shot them down. Here's what he said to NBC Sports. Under no circumstance are we going to have a local yellow with our equipment and our personnel out on the track. Local yellows are something that we can talk about, but honestly, concept-wise it is good, but in practice I don't really think that it keeps us from throwing the full course caution hardly ever. He also says that NASCAR only throws full course cautions at road courses if they need to send out, safety truck to help out a wrecked or stalled vehicle, or if there's debris on the track, oil on the track that needs to be cleaned up. But as you heard from that quote, Scott Miller says that there are very few conditions he believes that could come up during a race that would lend themselves to local yellows. It's really all or nothing. If you need a safety vehicle on track, Scott Miller is basically saying we're not doing a local yellow, we're throwing a full course caution for that. I see where he's coming from and I understand it. I'm on the fence on this issue, quite honestly, because while the truck race I think was very poorly handled, those caution laps sometimes lasted more than 20 minutes. Throw the stage yellows in there as well, and that race was unwatchable at times. The Xfinity Series was not nearly as bad, and even the Cup Series with its string of yellows late in the race, they kept most of those caution periods to only 2 laps. So in other words, like a caution came out with 12 to go, they were going green with 10 to go. Only 2 laps wasted, not a whole lot of time either. I thought the Cup Series handled at least that element of the caution flag procedures very, very well. So I'm on the fence because I understand where NASCAR is coming from. These guys have never done local yellows. Many of the drivers in the Cup Series have probably never done local yellows. NASCAR itself has not done local yellows, at least not in recent history. I understand the safety risk and the procedural risk. It's something new that nobody's done before. How is it officiated? Is it going to be officiated properly? Does it open NASCAR up to other criticism in other ways? It's a new thing, and there are a lot of new variables associated with it. I do believe NASCAR needs to really streamline these procedures, however, especially if they're going to continue to have more road courses. I mean, they already have so many this year, they need to get it right now. Local yellows, I think, can work, but it needs to be clearly defined what conditions warrant a local yellow versus a full course yellow, because as much as we complained about when NASCAR chose to throw the caution this last weekend, now if there are 2 different types of cautions and different ways to throw it, you're just putting more control at the hands of NASCAR race control, and I'm not a huge fan of that. I kind of like keeping things black and white. Either it's warrants a caution, a full course yellow, or no caution at all, play on. I like keeping things simple when it comes to giving NASCAR in the moment control. Be careful what you wish for, perhaps, is the lesson here, but it sounds like NASCAR's Scott Miller is not too keen on the idea of local yellows this year, does not believe it is particularly realistic. But let me know what you guys think. Are you a fan of local yellows? Would you like to see NASCAR clean up or change their caution flag procedures at road courses? Let me know what you thought about everything we talked about in today's episode. A very on-the-go sort of run-and-gun type episode. I mean, there's no light in here. The light is all coming from this big window. You can probably even hear the traffic down on the road below. This is not going to be my studio room, but it's what I have to work with right now. Thank you all so much for watching. That's all I've got. Be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Things will look a lot better here very soon. As always, a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters as well. I could not do this show without your tremendous support. We'll be back soon this week. I've been making a lot of progress. It may not look like it, but I'm making a lot of progress. So hopefully by the next episode of Out of the Groove, the studio will start to look a bit more complete. But stay tuned. A lot more to come this week and in the weeks to follow. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll see you next time.